Okay, let's see. How many people will show for our show this evening? I hope we will have many friends. Let's see. And we are getting set up for the 13 Principles of Wicca. Let's see. Honey, before you go out, I need you to turn that light up a little bit lighter. I can't see my paper. Hey, Winter Black Wind. Hey, Patricia. How's it going? It is good to see you. And it's a lovely evening, isn't it? And we are waiting on a few other people to come in before we get started. And I've been touching around the topic in my last several videos here and there about the 13 Principles of Wicca. And I thought that would be a good subject for us to go into tonight. Although I hate reading and standing on ceremony with different things in lessonry. I kind of like flowing by the seat of the pants. But once in a while we have to dig out the old paperwork, right? It's good to see that you're going pretty good there, Patricia. I hope everybody else is doing all right. We're doing pretty good here. Just kind of kicking back today. I've tried to take the day off, but every time I say, okay, today I am taking the day off, it ends up being the busiest work day in forever as far as clientele go, online and offline, which is a good thing. I mean, I can just get that down to a science by waking up, lifting my head, shaking it out, and saying, okay, today I'm going to take the day off, and then just watch the shit roll in. And I'll do really good in business that day, it is for sure. Anyway, Seraphina, it is good to see you. I'm glad to have you tuning in for the show today, as ever. And the same with all of you. I hope everything is going all right with y'all. Do you hear my microphone good? That's always a good question to kick off with, so I don't have to worry about it through the rest of the show. And I can't really even see my live stream gauge as to whether it is going good or not, so that is definitely a good question. Already 6 in the room, but I know that 4 are talking. Don't know who the other 2 are. I better be careful. It could be somebody gauging as to whether I'm doing all right here or not. It's YouTube Mafia. They're watching me. It is good to see you as ever, Seraphina, and the rest of you. But as I was saying, you know, I've been kind of touching around on some of my videos about covering the 13 Principles of Witchcraft, or Wicca. And I've been wanting to do it for a long time, but I always got headed off in a different direction anytime I would start. And so never could quite get in there and cover it. Was trying to take me away? Yes, my grandson was trying to take you away. How would he be doing that? That is the good question. Hey Dreamer, how are you doing? Welcome to our chat room and our live stream for this evening, which goes on every Wednesday now at 8 p.m. If the rest of you did not know, the show got moved to 8 p.m. on Wednesdays and is going on at 10:30 a.m. on Sundays. And that is to try to get a good balance between those people that are in the UK that watch the show and those people that are in America that watch the show, and all of those in between. Because as all of you know, we are on totally different time scales, and where sometimes it's time to wake up for us, it's time to go to sleep on the other side of the world. Oh, grabbing your tablet, I see. Well, luckily he didn't get a hold of that. Kids love to get a hold of electronics, to say the least. Yes, but it seems that the live stream is having a little sluggishness and taking off this evening. Maybe it's not a good day for a lot of people, but you guys need to let me know what is a good day or a bad day for y'all, and I can just try to grab a time variable that would seem, averagely good for the majority of everyone, Good evening, Mystic Mouse. Good to see you as always, and welcome to our chats. I am working this evening, so will not be able to stay much. Well, it's good to have you for the time that we can, anyway. And you're always welcome to come in and out whenever you wish to see what's going on if you can't stay on the chat through the whole thing. I love to have you guys as long and possible as you can possibly be here. And we're just waiting on a few other people to come in before we get started. Because it's a pretty deep topic, I think it's a pretty interesting one, to say the least. The 13 Principles of Wicca. I feel that it's kind of old information. It really is. It's from a long time ago, and I think that people should go in there, and if it's going to be applied to us on all the lessons that we get, it should be expanded on, changed, or whatever to fit the society today, because we all know that things have really changed a great deal. A little wolfy, Woo. Anyway, I think that society has changed a lot since 1974, when the 13 Principles of Wicca was implemented. And we don't have a lot of the herbs or a lot of the things that we had in the old days. We have a lot more of society built up around us, and so things have certainly changed. But they were put into place to get a general idea of how the majority of Wiccans back in the oldest days felt about who we were, what we did, how we practiced, but mainly to put forward an idea of who we are to the general populace, so that people would be less inclined to be afraid of us, to help them draw an idea upon the conclusion that we do not worship the Dark Lord. We don't dance with Satan and commit ourselves to all of that within Wicca. It was to also bring an understanding to the government that we are a religion, that we have religious practices, so we could be acknowledged, and that information carried to the world so that we could be made equal. And in doing such, they eventually succeeded. And though they came together in 1974, I believe it was April the 11th through 14th, they convened to draw an understanding of what these 13 principles should be, so that they could later present them to the government, so that an understanding would be acquired as to who we are, what we believe in, and in hopes that they would acknowledge us as a religion. And it wasn't until 1978 that actually they succeeded, when a Reverend Melton, who worked hand in hand with the government as far as understandings of religious equality, came forward and helped us to obtain that equality with everyone else. And because of him, we managed to do so. Reverend Dr. J. Gordon Melton, Director of the Institute for the Study of American Religion, the editor of the Encyclopedia of American Religion, and the council, and the council come together to, welcome Lisa, it's good to see you. The council came together, 73 eclectic pagans from many different traditions and pathways. They came together in the spring of 1974. And back then, that's saying a lot. We didn't have the internet that we have today. We didn't have the connections by telephone that we have today. We didn't have internet then. that was given out to the public than like we have today, you know. And so you can imagine how complicated it must have been for them to bring 73 pagans from many different pathways around America together so that they can convene and draw up a set of 13 principles about how we feel generically and loosely enough to where we can all feel a synonymity with what they would write, that we could all fall into an understanding of it, and so that they could present it to the government on our behalf and gain equality on our behalf. But they did, and they managed to do so quite well. Imagine it was meant to be more than 73, but that they could draw that many together was quite an accomplishment. And so they did, and in 1974, the spring of 1974, they drew these 73 people together, and they drew up a series of 13 principles that would kind of explain to the world who we are, what we believe in, kind of loosely, but trying to talk on behalf of all of the pagans from around the world. They did what they could. And in so doing, they managed to bring us into an understanding with the government by 1978. And we were acknowledged and recognized, and a book came into being and administered to the hand of those that sat within the government on the behalf of religious practice. The chaplains within the military were given a handbook based around us and our practices. And this was good. At that point, we became acknowledged, and if we hadn't have been, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I think that's beautiful. I think our ancestors came together and brought this forward so that maybe not them, or even their kids, perhaps, but all of us that would follow would be able to obtain equality and maybe not be burned at the stake again or whatever, you know, so that we could be acknowledged. Always off on Wednesdays. That's good, Dreamer. And it's good to see you. But yes, so that was really, really positive. And it's the cornerstone. It's a cornerstone of who we are today. I feel that another very, very important pieces would be your Witch's Creed and your Wiccan Rede. And we'll also be covering those in the near future, but on such hard-hitting topics that are basically doctrinated to a degree. I like to put a little time between these kind of things because I don't want it put out there, and I don't want people to come to a false idea that we live by doctrination, because we don't. We're a free practicing group of people that believe in, you know, living free and believing as we wish and taking away from or adding to our religion what makes us feel comfortable within it, so that it could be that thing that we would walk in throughout our eternity. And that's the way it should be. That's the way I always teach that it should be. But let's start going into the 13 principles of the Wiccan belief, if we should. Let's see. The position they expressed in the document is that modern witches are not bound to any modern interpretation of historical evidence or the contemporary hierarchy, but are rather subject only to their inherent divine connection. Let's see. We are not bound by tradition from other times and other cultures, and owe no allegiance to any person or power greater than the divinity manifest through our own being. The council also expressed a desire to include anyone wishing to be affiliated with a neo-pagan tradition, as long as their views, attitudes, and opinions do not contradict or oppose those of the tradition in seeking to be inclusive, we do not wish to open ourselves to the destruction of our groups by those on self-serving power trips or to philosophies or practices contradictory to those principles. In other words, anybody could come and be a part of us as long as they are not there to be another Charlie Manson or drive us down the pathway to our own destruction. You know, we did not want to hold anybody at arm's length, and we wanted to make anybody a part of us who would wish to be so. In our knowledge and belief, and seeking to exclude those whose ways are ours, we do not want to do. We do not want to deny participation with us to any who are sincerely interested in our knowledge and beliefs, regardless of race, color, sex, age, nationality, or culture, origin, or sexual preference. And that's why, we all feel that people should be equal. And if these things, Happy Black, how are you doing? If we didn't put out there this long ago that everyone should be treated equal, we not only wouldn't be treating people that would come among us who are gay to be equal with us, or men or women or whatever, but there would be still a lot of prejudices in the world, even among our own selves, and we were open-minded for so long that it wasn't, far from us to declare this within the 13 principles of Wicca, that everybody should be equal. Let's see. So in 1974, the people came together in April the 11th to 14th of 1974. 73 people from different pathways to declare these practices, to put forth an understanding that, would less scare the mundane world, such as your Christians or agnostics or atheists, for that matter, people that would live mundanely. They could come to an understanding that we're not devil worshippers, or that we don't go around casting dark magics on everybody and so forth. And it was a very important thing for us to let be known. Let's see. So, let's see. Where do we go? All right. And so starting in the 13, let's start going into those now. We practice our rites. Let's see. We practice our rites to attune ourselves with the natural rhythm of life forces, marked by the phases of the moon and the seasonal quarters and cross quarters. Which, what they're saying with this is that we go into ritual, we practice ritual, we sit at our altar and we do spell works and celebrations with each other to celebrate these particular times and give acknowledgement to the gods and goddesses, as well as to mark the seasons that we're in this phase of time, and to give blessing for the season that it is, whether it's for the harvest or for planting, or that it's the dead season and now it's time to be, let's say, curing meat as they would in the oldest day. I mean, it was important that we paid attention to our seasons, and we had certain times that we would be planting things, certain seasons we would be harvesting, certain times that we would be curing, and then of course we would mark those seasons through our rituals and through our practices of celebration around bonfires and all of that. And we're getting better at reaching back into the oldest days and adhering to those wheels of the year, celebration and rituals that we used to be so good at. We acknowledge a depth of power far greater than what is apparent to the average person, because it is far greater than ordinary. It is sometimes called supernatural. Let's see. Sometimes called supernatural, but we see it is lying within that which is naturally potential to all. Meaning that we all have the ability of the 6 senses, not just the 5 senses that everybody acknowledges, but 6 even if other people don't acknowledge that they have that. You know, because it is a gift that resonates with us naturally as we are at one with the earth. And the more we are at one with the earth, with the planetaries, the universe, the more it is prevalent within us, the more we can use this to benefit us and others that we might set out to help, who may not be as good at working with it as we are. We conceive of the creative power in the universe as manifesting through polarity as masculine and feminine, and that this is the same creative power that lies in all people, that functions through the interacting of the masculine and feminine. We value neither above the other. Knowing each to be supportive of the other, we value sex as pleasure, meaning we don't just have sex for procreation, we do enjoy it, indeed, and probably should, as a symbol and embodiment of life, and as one of the sources of energies used in magical practice and religious worship. This particular paragraph is saying a whole lot within just the little bit it did. It's saying that we acknowledge that sexual activity was given to us, you know, for pleasure. But we also know that we can increase energy that we would use also within our magical workings by increasing magical energy through sexual magic. Also, that it's not just for pleasure, or not just for procreating, but also for enjoyment, you know, just plain and simple. And that you should enjoy life to its fullest. We recognize also that masculine and feminine are balanced, that they're equal to each other, and that not one could exist without the other, and that we could accomplish a great deal by just accepting and acknowledging this. You know, that is why everyone should know right here and now that Wicca, shamanism, druidism, you know, it's not just for women, it's not just for men, and there is no pathway that is completely obstructed from, you know, one existing along beside of the other, you know, except, you know, I guess there are people that would choose to be prejudiced against one sex or the other, but that's why I don't really believe myself, and I'm not saying that it's right or wrong that people should have Dianic covens. I would not want to be in one myself because that is totally avoiding the idea that there is a God prevalent within our creation. I feel that we should always acknowledge that there's a masculine and feminine balance, and that there's a God and a goddess. You know, I feel that the Dianic covenants, they want what they want, and so they practice in the way that they will. But I don't feel that it would be right for myself. The disacknowledgement of men existing, you know, and, you know, I mean, we have to exist side by side with both sexes in the world. Why wouldn't it be so within the covenants? You know, within the creation of a baby. I mean, it takes a man and a woman, you know. Why wouldn't it be so within the covenants? So with me, it doesn't resonate. So I wouldn't be within a non-male covenant or a non-female covenant. I don't agree with it for myself. Now, for everybody else, it may be exactly the way they feel about things, you know, and so I can't judge anyone for their practices. Let's see. We recognize both outer and inner or psychological worlds, sometimes known as the supernatural worlds, the collective unconscious, inner planes, etc. And we see the interaction of these two dimensions, the basis for paranormal phenomenal, magical exercises. We neglect either dimension for the other, seeing both as necessary for our fulfillment. And we use magic. We take energy from everywhere, and some of that from the outer world as well as the inner world. We acknowledge the spiritual world and we take from it as well as it taking from us, because the same as we reach for and try to accomplish, you know, a traveling into the other dimensions, you know, to explore and partake of information that could be gathered there. They do the same here, and they want to live. They want life force, so they likewise reach into this world. All worlds intersect somewhere, but do they break into each other completely? Well, sometimes it does happen, and sometimes someone has to step in and try to rebalance that through one form or method, and there are many different ways, you know. But you know, magic is everywhere, and all universes exist inside and outside of each other, believe it or not. Let's see, we do not recognize any authoritarian hierarchy, but do honor those who teach. Let's see. In other words, within people. They're talking about with people. Let's see. Yamanu, how are you doing? It's good to see you, and welcome back to the show. We missed you. We really have. Let's see. We do not recognize any authoritarian hierarchy, but do honor those who teach. In other words, even if you join into a covenant, and you may have a high priest, a priestess, and all of those that are above you as a new beginner, if you come in as a beginner. Hey, Omira, all of the people are coming in. I missed you guys. But, yes, within covenants, you may have people that are above you. But we acknowledge that we are equal with them, and we just simply respect their teachings. And that's one thing people ought to know, that people that are in a place of higher position within a covenant, or who are teaching you as a teacher, maybe your guru or whatever, no matter what religion you are in, we need to be acknowledged that we are equal with them and they are with us, and that we're all on the same level. We do respect their teachings the same as you guys would respect my teachings, you know. But we do acknowledge that all people are equal, and because one ranks a little higher than the other, or maybe a lot higher within a covenant, it doesn't mean that we're not on the same level as they are. The same as masculine and feminine. All have to exist, I mean, you know, for you to be anything, you know. Let's see. We recognize that our intelligences gives us a unique responsibility towards our environment. We seek to live in harmony with nature, in ecological balance, offering fulfillment to life and consciousness within the evolutionary concept. Which means we have a responsibility for the earth that a lot of other animals cannot take responsibility for, because we are higher evolved knowledgeably, but we are still equal to they themselves. You know, we have to take care of our earth. We're the ones that are, you know, either going to throw that cup down on the ground or put it in a recycle bin or a garbage can at least. You know, we are supposed to be evolved. We're to have an understanding that we have a responsibility to treat everything with respect and to keep everything clean, and to acknowledge all of that which is around us, including other life forms such as animals. Seek to live in harmony with nature and the ecological balance. That is the main point that it wants to make here. Also, and that would also go for respecting magic as well. Wisdom to respect things and not bring harm to others. We acknowledge a depth of power far greater than that is apparent to the average person. Because it is far greater than ordinary, it is sometimes called supernatural. But we see it as a laying within that which is naturally potential to all. We have to acknowledge that everybody has the abilities of magic, but not everybody knows how to use it. And so we be careful with that which we do. We teach those that we can. Respect those who share their greater knowledge and wisdom, and acknowledge those who have courageously given themselves to leadership. I am getting so lost here. Let's see. Power of the universe and manifesting through polarity. No, I'm not lost. We recognize both the outer and inner or psychological world, sometimes known as the supernatural, the collective unconscious, inner planes. We have to acknowledge all of the worlds within our worlds, and we have to treat it with respect. We understand that we may come into a group lower than other people, even if they are higher than us in a rankship. They are equal to us as a human being. And we still have to respect them as a teacher, but we don't think of ourselves as lower, and they won't or shouldn't think of us as lower than they. Teachers and students are equivalent to each other as human beings, but we have to respect the teachers that are about us. And to me, teachers and students are one, because one may be a student 1 minute, but they're your teacher the next. And I always acknowledge that I will always be a student to those around me, even if they are students of mine for, say, 16 years that I've been teaching them. At some point or another, they will read something that maybe I didn't get, or they will do something that maybe I didn't know that they learned from somebody else. But people are not only your students, they're your teachers. Respect those who share their greater knowledge and wisdom, and acknowledge those who have courageously given of themselves in leadership. And that is the main point I'm making with this particular paragraph. As above, so below, as within, so without. Exactly. Every color in the rainbow is needed. Absolutely. We see religion, magic, and wisdom in living as being united in the way one views the world and lives within it. A worldview and philosophy of life which we identify as witchcraft and the Wiccan way. And it kind of speaks for itself here. We acknowledge and respect all forms of life, as well as all magic within the world around us. The world views. We take from each other and we give. We always must. If we do not take as well as give, our knowledge and wisdom will become fairly stagnant, and we'll get nowhere. We'll just live in a cloud, thinking we know everything, and our knowledge and wisdom will grow ever stagnant, not getting anywhere. And we shouldn't do that. Always strive for new knowledge and wisdom. Let's see. Calling oneself a witch does not make one a witch, but neither does heredity itself, nor the collecting of titles, degrees, and intuition. A witch seeks to control the forces within her or himself that make life possible in order to live wisely and well without harm to others and in harmony with nature. So practicing witchcraft is what makes you a witch. Practicing witchcraft is what keeps your mind vibrant and striving to acquire those things that would grant you the cause for practicing witchcraft is highly looked upon. However, we recognize ever that what we put out in the world will come back on us, whether it's good or bad. And whether we're talking about the law of three within Wicca or the law of karma within humanity. And it exists all over the place. It's in many different forms and fashions, but it exists. Let's see. We believe in the affirmation and fulfillment of life in a continuation of evolution and development of consciousness that gives meaning to the universe, to know our personal role within it. Affirmation and fulfillment of life in continuation of evolution and development. We acknowledge evolution. We acknowledge development within life, and we always acknowledge science. Science has been there, and the science of today are the Wiccans and witches of yesterday. And we were who they are now, only they have machines and things that we didn't in the old days. You know, that's evolution. Were we lizard or were we Adam and Eve? I personally like to think that we were evolution, that we were the lizard. We crawled out of the rivers, we took form as a monkey, and before you know it, we were standing straight up, you know. But that's just our beliefs, and we can't force it on everyone. And not everybody feels the same way. But you have to wonder who was in the land of Nod when Adam and Eve broke out of the garden eventually, or their kids did. You know. Let's see, our only animosity towards Christianity, and this is a good place for this because I was just talking about evolution or the biblical ideas as to which is right or wrong, etc. This is a good place for this. Our only animosity towards Christianity or toward any other religion or philosophy of life is to the extent that its institutions have claimed to be the only way, and to have sought to deny freedom to others and to suppress our ways of religious belief, and that there is only one deity. Okay, so acknowledgement that there's nothing wrong with the Christian way or belief, and that we should respect them as well as anyone else. But we can agree to disagree and move on, and that's what we should do. It shouldn't be an all-out holy war as it's ever been trying to break out, you know, but just, you know, decide to get along with them. Say, okay, you know, you believe your way and I believe mine, you know, and I'm not going to have animosity towards you. I'm not going to be angry with you. I'm not going to battle and fight with you over this. You know, because you know who you are, you know what you believe, you know that their way isn't the only way, you know, and you also have the satisfaction of knowing that if you're able to be open-minded and acknowledge that any way is quite possible, and that there's no religion that's entirely right and none entirely wrong, then you are quite well the wise one, and just leave it at that, you know. Of course, it's not important as to who is the wisest and who is the less wise. Just quite simply, it is important for you to have the religious freedom to be who you are, to walk the path you want to walk, and not have anyone condemn you. Okay, going to the board briefly. Yamanu says, it's very ancient saying, but a true and honest thought, that if you become a teacher, by your pupils, you'll be taught. And that's true. If you're a hell of a teacher, you will have taught some really good people, and they will be wise enough to teach you one day. And, you know, the wise student is one that not only seeks wisdom from you, the one teacher that you are, but wisdom from all sources. And I always encourage people to go to other channels and read books, get information from other people besides just me. You know, that's the wise student. That's one who will learn a great deal and eventually bring some knowledge that I didn't have back to me and teach me. And I can be appreciative about that. Let's see. We are what come from the soup of life and the seas itself, spawned from the elements and the spark of life. Cosmic dust and lightning, who can say? Well, that's what they say about the goddess Rhea and Uranus. Gaia and Uranus, that the world and us were born from chaos and the explosion, which would be, I guess, in some people's way, the Big Bang Theory. Sorry. But reading a lot is good, Omira. You can't get enough of that. And you would be the student that would come forth eventually and teach me something that I didn't know. And I'm always applauding you guys for that. I'm always at one with knowing whatever can be bestowed upon me. And by the way, I've gotten to a point where I'm lazy and don't like to read at all. You know, it's hard. It's like pulling teeth to get me to read anything. You know, but I watch a lot of videos, I listen to you guys these days, and I do pull out a book once in a while. Whenever I get that itch, it's just a matter of whether I'm going to read it all the way through or not. That's the question. Metaphor and myth are intertwined, that's for sure. But let's see, where was I at? Let's see. Okay, and American witches, we are not, as American witches, we are not threatened by debates on the history of the craft, the origins of various terms, or the origins of various aspects of different traditions. We are concerned with our present and our future, as you should be. A drink of coffee, my throat's drying out real bad. We should always be concerned with our future and our present, not so much the past. Although, I do feel that this was written long ago when there wasn't a lot of past for witches to look into. Seriously, there is a lot here on these pages I feel is a bit backdated. They wrote these at a time when they were just coming out from underground. Remember, 1974, which is when this was written. 1974 is only how many years from the date that Gerald Gardner, Margaret Murray, Aleister Crowley, and the others resurfaced witchcraft from the underground. They brought it up in 1959 with Gardner's earliest books. But it didn't really resurface until 1966, when a lot of these were becoming more and more public. So let's say 8 years. 8 years from the time it resurfaced to the time that they came together and brought these in. They didn't have a lot of history to look at that they could actually bring forward from the past and display in front of everybody. So of course they wouldn't be as concerned with the past as they are the present or the future back then. But today we have to look at it, even if it's in admiration. If it's in admiration for those who brought us up and created us for who we are and did what they could to make us a legitimate religious practice that could be recognized by the government. You know, it was a cornerstone of who we are, along with the witch's creed and the Wiccan rede. It was a cornerstone along with those and a few other things. And so it's important to look at that if nothing else. You know, although I do wish that if they were going to teach this a lot within schools and in education of witchcraft or magic, that they would expand on it, that they would rejuvenate them by actually giving it a bit more life to the new days. There's a bit here that can't really be reflected on entirely now, because indeed, you know, there are paths that actually conflict the ideas as to whether evil actually exists or not. Do remember, the Wicca came in well after Christian came in. Yes, I do know that witchcraft was the earliest religion. Okay. However, Christianity did come in well before Wicca did. And so before Wicca came about, a lot of the beliefs of Christianity did bleed through and come in. And nowadays we have Christian Wicca. We have Techno Wicca. We have a lot of things that could conflict what was put forth in these 13 principles of Wicca. And I'm not saying anything to degrade these. I'm just saying that everything can become a little bit aged and need a revisement or be amended somehow, form, or fashion. But, you know, this was a cornerstone of our history, and we do need to give it homage for that and maybe revise it and re-implement it. But I have a feeling not a lot of people would respect it. There are too many pathways, too many different places of beliefs. Anyway, I'm finishing these up so that we could talk more freely and openly. We do not accept the concept of absolute evil, nor do we worship any entity known as Satan or the devil. As defined in Christianity tradition, We do not seek power through the suffering of others, nor do we accept the personal benefit can be derived only by denial to others. We believe that we should seek within nature that which is contributory to our health and well-being. So we don't worship Satan. We don't believe in an infinite evil. Hi, Jennifer. It's good to come rather than not come at all. And welcome. It's good to see you. Yes, with these, and especially the last one, I think that the main thing that they were putting forward is that we do not worship an evil. We don't believe in Satan, so how could we dance for him or whatever, that Satan, Lucifer, these aspects were actually stemmed from the Abrahamic religions and not from the pagan religions whatsoever, not denying that Satanism, Luciferian, are valid religions. I believe that they are nowadays, and I don't disrespect anybody that may be watching the show that walk in that pathway, so don't get me wrong by any means. However, you know, in the oldest days, that was the mundane people's strongest fears, was that we were practitioners and worshipers of Satan and that we were to be feared or whatnot. And still today, the people that do worship Satan or Lucifer, whatever, those pathways are still falling under the scrutiny of Christianity within the worst way, and mundane people even without Christianity, you know, and perhaps they shouldn't. People should read into those religions before they actually throw stones in them likewise. Me, I'm not a judger or a condemner of anyone. I believe that all people are created equally and should be able to practice their own religious bout as long as it harms none, given that is what this stated in the last line that it put forward. You know, we have to respect all other people, be it that it harm none. And they were really, I feel, that the biggest people that they were trying to influence by the creation of the 13 principalities of Wicca were the mundane people and Christians that would be afraid of us. And lastly, that they were trying to influence the government so that we could become a recognized, organized religion eventually and be acknowledged like we are today within the chaplain's handbook in the military that the government put forward, you know. And if it weren't for our ancestors, we wouldn't have that. So I feel that all of this is important, though a lot of people might look at this video, and we have a lot of people coming and going out of the room, I notice. We haven't gotten above 11 people because people have been coming in, they might be bored with the subject, and then they leave, and that's fine. But even though people may find these topics a little stuffy, these are important topics. And whether you read them from me, or you watch them on somebody else's video, or you watch my video, you watch somebody else's video, or read them in a book, eventually it's going to cross your path. And it is, in my opinion, important to know what we are constructed from, where we come from, to remember who we are, first, last, and always. And that way we don't get above who we are. We don't throw our magics around and hurt other people. We don't deconstruct ourselves by doing something that gets out of hand and comes back on us by karma, or makes us feel about ourselves degraded and defiled. You know, topics we should always know. But a lot of people are not going to feel that way, and so we have people coming and going. They stick their head in and they leave. You know, well, I mean, I believe that that this is something that we should understand, even though we don't all hold by it. But isn't it equally as important to know what we do resonate with, what we do want to hold by, or what we don't? I mean, even if it's just a good read over and it doesn't take long. You saw that I got through it in less than 49 minutes, and that's talking to a bunch of people and coming in, you know, and covering it thoroughly in between talking about it. And Seraphina says, I've been sucked into listening to you reading instead of chatting on here, LOL. Good information to know. Well, I hope that you actually like my chatting too. No, I'm just kidding. But no, you have to have a little bit of all of it. And a lot of people want to come and watch the video and they don't want to get into, you know, the political aspect of who we are. And by the way, there is as much of a political aspect to who we are as there are spiritual aspects. I mean, there really is. I mean, you don't think that we just threw up a room one day in the earliest days as cavemen and said, ooga booga, meaning everybody sit down, we're going into a meeting right now, do you? No, we were villages. We were people that were birthing children, and we were families that were going out and hunting for the entire village and coming back and supplying the food. And we would have our village meetings talking about the next village over getting ready to strike against us and fixing to kill our women and children by hitting our village dead on and things of that nature. Or that we were going to run out of food if we didn't get out there and hunt. And it was the winter time and maybe there wasn't a lot of vegetation available, and so animals were in hibernation, etc. You know, they had full villages. They had people that would come together in center square in the more newer, updated villages of yesterday. Like, say, in the 1200s, you know, coming into center square and holding meetings about what they were going to do. You know, and it was a way of life. It wasn't a religion. This is a way of life, people. This is who we are. This isn't really a religion. And I don't like, I mean, even though you catch me once in a while calling our pathways religion, I don't feel that way. I feel that this is way of life. I feel that in Christianity you have a religion and you do things religiously. You're at a certain time, at a certain place. You read a book religiously. You're doctrinated under a religious book that says you have to go by things this particular way. In Wicca, you have spirituality, which is a little heavier than witchcraft. You know, you have Wicca, which is spirituality, and a little heavier than witchcraft because you have more doctrination in the way that you do things. You are led by people rather than a book. But you still have a way of doing things, a way that you've been taught, although it's a little less religious, you know. You don't have to be somewhere at Sunday school every morning on Sunday at 8 a.m. And you don't have to watch the Sunday programs because it's your religion, etc. It's a little more spiritual than religious, more go with the flow. And then you have witchcraft, which is a little more, I am going to do what I want. I'm going to throw up my altar. I'm not going to cast a circle. I'm not necessarily praying to a deity. You know, I may be calling on the energy of the earth to do this, and I'm going to make this shit happen. I'm going to cut the stone in my hand very briefly, and I'm going to give all my power to it, and then I'm going to bury it in the sand randomly. It's more of a random thing, less spiritual, less religious. You know, and that's the way I feel about it. If you want to put the eggs in the right basket, that is what I feel the difference is between witchcraft, Wicca, and Christianity. Then you have your Gnosticism, which is, I don't know what to believe in. I know that there's a higher power out there. I know that there is an energy that governs the earth, but I don't know what basket to put it in. That's agnosticism. Then you have atheism, which says, you know, I don't believe in anything. I'm just going to get through life, and I believe in doing things that I got to do to get by. And then you have Christianity, which is doctrinated, hard-hitting and heavy, and it believes in doing things one way and not flexing away from it. Grandma said this, and that's the way it is. And you have to give them kudos because it is hard to stand by and hold to one doctrination throughout their eternity and not bend and flex and not get tired of it or move away from it. Let's see. I agree. Serafina says Wicca is a way of life, sometimes not necessarily a religion, like you said. Exactly. I feel that it's a spirituality, although it's a little more religious than witchcraft, if you wish to call it that. But I like to say that you would look at it in waves of mundane, religious, spiritual, and free will. That's the way I like to call it. You know, and some people may agree, some people may disagree. But here on the microphone, it's only me. So I can only give you my ideas on it. Sorry, I'm getting my acid reflux kicking my ass once more. You know, so quite possibly, you should branch out and read several books and figure out exactly what does resonate with you. Things like this are put there for us. Things like this are put out there for us, you know, so that we could look at what our ancestors were, how we were created, and we were. You know, this may not be stated all the time, and it isn't. I mean, we don't go back and we don't always refer to the 13 Principles of Wicca. You know, we don't. But you can see those principles interwoven through everything that you read, you say, and you do within our books. So in that way, it's well spoken, and we hold to it lightly. Of course, we know that we're not going to be judged, tried, and condemned by our own people, you know, by any mistakes that we make. And that is where Christians have to watch out for even their own people. And it's sad to say that, but it's true. Let's see. There were old archaic terms, high magic and low magic said. Yes, I remember that, Yomanu. And I do go by that. I do sometimes lend homage to one and not the other. Sometimes I need low magic said more than I do need high magic said. But high magic is largely ceremonial, very structured, and it would be relying mainly on deities. That's true. Low magic, hedge magic, practice of the cunning folk, that would be like your practice on drawing from the earth or from other people around you and things of that nature. You draw from the low magic around you, not that which is above. And high magic, you rely generally on a higher power, a higher source. I read a lot of different books on Wicca and paganism. Still learning, but aren't we all? I mean, we're all still learning. It's all right, Jennifer. This always, it makes an archive, so you would be able to go back and watch it. And please do. I mean, I feel that these are important, at least to find a synonymity with our ancestors and what they must have went through to do this. Could you imagine? They did not have the internet. Very few people had phones around in those days. Okay, in 1974, you know, they did not have computers. They did not have all these technologies that they could get together on. But yet they drew 73 different people from around America that are all on different pathways of paganism. Not just Wicca, but different pathways of paganism. To bring all of these people together to create these 13 principles of Wicca so that they could give it over to the government and say, we are a religion that should be recognized. Recognize us. Let us be a true organized religion. You know, and they did. It took them 4 years, but they did it. You know, that's true. I will do that. And you should. I think everybody should recognize our ancestors. And soon we will be covering the Witch's Rede, the Wicca Rede, and the Witch's Creed. Those are equally as important as a branch of history. Now, some ways, forms, and fashions, those are a little outworn. But we have to know who our ancestors are. Do realize that when you're going through all of this, that which was put before us, as far as there not being an absolute evil, we do not recognize an absolute evil, etc. A lot of that's changed because of Wicca, Christian Wicca that came in, and a lot of Christianity bleeding through, throughout our walkways that came after Christianity began its reign. You know, some of these belief systems have changed, and it's not very uncommon to hear of a Wiccan or a witch talking about how they practice light magic or dark magic, how they practice good witchcraft or bad witchcraft, evil or positive or negative. It's not uncommon to hear that anymore, because even if it didn't exist in the days that these were created, it does now. And that's why I feel that if they're going to keep teaching these, they could do a revision of it. I'm just afraid that if they ever did that, they would try to crush down on us with a fist and try to organize our religion a bit too much to where it would then become doctrinated. And then they would begin trying to exercise a control over us that should never be. At that point, I think a lot of religions would begin to rebel along with us, and they should. You know, but yes, I mean, I feel that we should always read the history. The one thing that did get me started in my pathways on witchcraft is whenever I was handed a book, and it was a novel written by an older lady, and this was given to me back in 1983-84 when my first deck of tarot cards was handed to me. It was handed to me by somebody, and it was about an older woman who was living a life of a witch. And it was about gaining respect of people about her. And it was a novel, a real book about a woman's true life. And I don't, for the life of me, know what the hell that book was called. I wish I did, because it was so good. As a matter of fact, I never liked to read books until I read this. And this was when I was 18 years old, remember? Or thereabouts, 17, 18. But I read this book and I fell in love with it. It was just so beautiful. That is where I began my pathway of witchcraft and Wicca, and what took me down all the other roads I went to from there. You know, and I wish I knew what this book was called. And then I wanted to start pursuing watching shows like Bell Book and Candle, which is another one that you guys should watch. And it's an old black and white show. You know, but it's a good one nonetheless. You know, but Bell Book and Candle is what it's called. Bell Book and Candle. And I don't know what year it was created. Whenever I got to watching these shows, I started craving more and more. And then I went into, because I felt so synonymous with it, I realized who I was in other lives. And it started coming through to me in dreams. I found my pathway. You know, so sometimes the lighthearted and frivolous things you would never expect would put you on your pathway, and you would find out who you truly are. And you can always feel very grateful for that. You know, there's a lot of people that would poke their head up in here. 1958. Thank you, Yamanu. Thank you for finding that for me. And if any of you can ever research a novel about a woman on the path of witchcraft in her life, and it's an old book, and I wish I could give you more, you know, research and see what all you could find on that. But it was a novel, I remember that. It was about a woman's story, and it was a true novel. Let's see. But yeah, it was a wonderful book, and I would ascribe to that for anybody. The most important things that I would tell you to watch and read in this day and age. Another thing that got me started, and it was a little backdated, was Janet Farrar and her husband. They came out with a series of videos. What was her husband? Gerald and let's see. What was Janet Farrar's husband's name? And I can't even remember. They were so long ago. I'm telling you right now, you're hearing my start, really. And that was in 1983-84. Bell Book and Candle was a beautiful show. And I'm glad you're still here, Lisa. That's very good. But Janet Farrar and her husband. And it starts with a G, I'm pretty sure. Not George, no. Anyway, the Farrars. They were the first ones that I watched in a video. And I was really in tune with that at the time. You've got to realize that they're old videos now, but they were kind of new back then, especially for me. You know, they were only like 10 to 12 years old, you know, back in those days. Whenever I got my start, God, and don't throw stones. Yes, I am that old. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm telling you any of this, because it just really incriminates me as being an old witch. But yes, all of those books and videos that you can get. Anything that you can read on Scott Cunningham. Those are good beginner's books. You should really read anything to do with Scott Cunningham. And one of the biggest writers of today, and I really don't know a lot of his works. I really haven't read anything of his. Not enough to really say that I've read it. But everyone else swears by him, and I'm hearing a lot of really good details about him. It's Christopher Pinzek. Okay? I'm hearing a lot about this guy, and I may be interviewing him for the show in the near future. I'm doubting it now because I was asked to do a stage thing, you know, but I'm not thinking that I'm going to end up doing it. Alright? For my own pretty good reasons. But if I did do this interview show where I would go and highlight something that would be going on, then I would be interviewing Christopher Pinzek, which is said to be one of the best writers of today. And you know, there's always the grandfather of them all today that would still be living, which would be Raven Grimassi, and most of you already know that I interviewed him last year here on the show. And you should find that, and it's under the Houston Pagan Pride Day Festival videos that I've got here on the channel. If you look for them, you would easily find them. And there's 3 parts to that series that I made about last year's Pagan Pride Day Festival. You know, but if I do end up doing this favor that somebody is asking me to do this year, then I would end up interviewing some pretty good people. Let's see. Israel Regarding was a big Golden Dawn Arthur. Reading his books is often considered a good place to start for Western ceremonial magic. Alright, I'll take that into consideration. I have not ever heard of Israel Regarding. But you've got to remember that a lot of the books I read were the ancient days. You know, from there, I've done a lot of my learning by going to seminars and listening to other people, other videos, and reading little bits here and there as I can. I rarely find the time to do anything these days. But you know, I'm getting a lot of requests for people wanting me to do radio shows coming in lately. I've got people that are asking me to do them a favor by highlighting the Houston Pagan Pride Day Festival over in Houston this year, and I don't know that I'll be doing that, but I'm being asked. I'm getting people asking me to come and be a guest speaker at different stage shows this year. I've got a lot of people trying to highlight me in a bunch of stuff, but this far I've been very evasive about it, if you know what I mean. Who was a peer of, Israel Regarding? Yeah, but I wouldn't have known about that, because regardless of who was a peer or for or against somebody else, I would read them anyway, because I don't listen to other people's dramas if they do happen to have them. I don't know if that's what you mean by peer, but I wasn't only holding to one person. I would actually read anything on anybody at this point in time. I am blessed to be present to your stream. Everybody throw out the confetti. Welcome to our stream, Dark Magician. It's good to have you. Brightest blessings to you. And welcome to our show. I don't think I've ever seen you on here before, and I don't know that I've ever talked to you actually on the channel, but you're very welcome, and we're blessed to have you, by far. But yes, I don't know if Regarding and Crowley had anything against each other at any point or time. I actually was not a fan of Aleister Crowley's, so I don't really know a lot about him, because he was a very dark practitioner from what I understood, and always did my best to steer away from dark things. After all, I did have and do have a very prominent prominent dark side myself that could come out should I ever let it, and I by no means want to ever do that, if you know what I'm saying. You know, because that just could not be too good. Either way, you know, I love talking to other people. I love getting information from as many people as I can. And there's a lot of very, very smart cookies out there. A lot of my students here on this channel, including Yamanu, including Lisa, are very, very strong-minded people, very knowledgeable people, if I might say. And that's just naming the ones that are right here in my eye catch at the moment. You know, there are a lot of very smart students here on the channel. You know, hey Matthew, it's good to see you. Welcome to your first live stream with us, I think. It's good to have you. Although you guys have known Matthew Hart for a long time. He's a friend of mine from Facebook from way back, if I might say so. I got to take my medicines today. I haven't taken them in a while. I am still under the scrutiny of the pain of my elbow. I mean my shoulder. And it's been killing me like you wouldn't believe. In actuality, I have an appointment tomorrow so they could read the scans that they did of my arm to find out what's really going on in there, in my neck actually, and they think that that's where the problem actually originates. They believe that in my neck I have a slip disc, and it's because of the cartilage in between the bones rubbing down to nothing, and it's pinching off a nerve in there, and so it's strangulating a nerve. Let's see, we never get old, we get better. Isn't that true of all of us good old witches? I mean, you know, and we should only get better. We really should. Never let ourselves lay down and let everything overtake us. But knowledge and wisdom, it can only come by taking of knowledge and wisdom from other people. Unfortunately, I find more and more within the pagan communities, you find more and more today, you get overly prideful, boyish, stand up against anybody and debate, argue, and want to think everybody knows everything and don't want to take anything from anyone. And that is sad. I really don't want to see us go down that pathway, because that ruins all the different cultures, and that's where these Indians split off from those Indians and nobody is in tune anymore, or it branches off and creates other pathways, but people lose each other that way. And I don't like that too much, you know? I feel that we should always take everyone as to not being a student, but being a teacher. And likewise, we may not agree with everything that someone says, but we should always search and do our best to dig through if we have to. And search for whatever little bits we can get from them and carry out with ourselves as a bit of knowledge. And I would say you're late, crone. Shit. You done missed the entire 13 Principles of Wicca? I mean, all of them. And we even talked in there between them a bit. No, but it's good to have you. Better late than never, right? You will find the Evocation of Thoth on Facebook. I linked it to you. It is an example of what he, regarding, was teaching. And that's okay. That's cool. You know, I like to study a bit of Egyptology whenever I can. I wouldn't say that I'm very adept in it. Now, Yamanu is pretty well versed in Egyptology, and if you have any questions on that, you should talk to him. As a matter of fact, I intend to be interviewing him on the show this coming week. Alright? Lunabelle, you're late too. For heaven's sake, you girls, I'm going to have to get the ruler. Let's see, teacher's work is never done. No, you guys are late. Oh my God, you've missed the entire, you've missed, 60 decades? That's pretty damn late. The 13 Principles of Wicca from 1974. Yep, you missed about 64 years. I said 64 decades, didn't I? No, you missed 64 years, that's for sure. I'm going to have to get the ruler. Go stand in the corner. Keep the ears open, though. Anyway, Brian Ruiz, I'm going to get you now. All of you guys are late. Heaven forbid. Oh, wait. Heaven's got nothing to do with this. Oh, goodness. Anyway, no, but you're here for the lighthearted talk that we do after the shows, right? I mean, that's a plus. Don't feel bad. I did too. Matthew Hart is also in trouble. So is Luna Bell, and so is Crone. I mean, you guys, you're going to have to stay after class. And people who stay after class get the book that thick. We're going into the Bible. Oh, goodness. No, I've got a sense of humor when I want to have. Anyway, no, you guys, naughty school. You get naughty school. Everybody wants to blame Brian, and he's willing to take that trouble onto his shoulders. Everybody in trouble with the teacher. See, I'm not the only one going in the corner. Luna Bell says, no, I guess you're not. You've got good company, though. And Jennifer was late. Girl, you something else, I'm telling you. And Jennifer is always late. That girl, yeah, I'm telling you. I'm going to make her run the track. Anyway, so in all reality, how many of you are very familiar? How many of you are well versed within the 13 Principles of Wicca? And what it is? Did you all know what it is? Because believe it or not, when you ask that to some of the youngsters of today, they do not know what the 13 Principles of Wicca is. Anyway, it's never mind. I mean, in all reality, if you go through all of our teachings of today, if you listen to all the spiritual leaders, then you'll find the 13 Principles of Wicca weeded throughout it. Because it was that which threaded us into itself. I believe, and let me say this, because a lot of people do not want to think the same way as I do on it. But if you read through, the teacher will arrive when the seeker is at need. The teacher was here way before. What are you talking about? Anyway, in all reality, my belief is that Wicca was a new name, and this is just the way I see it. And a lot of people would like to disagree with this. I believe that we were burned at the stake as witches. We were treated harshly. We were degraded and pulled into parts, and we were having rocks piled on us as a form of torture, and our families were dragged out of the house and killed. I believe that when they wanted to resurrect, when Gerald Gardner, Margaret Murray, Aleister Crowley, and the others wanted to resurrect witchcraft, they could by no means do that under the same name that it was given in the oldest terms. Okay, they could not resurrect it under the same banner because the same shit would definitely replay. That's how I feel about it. The word Wicca was synonymous with the wise ones, and it's an old Celtic term. Alright, I believe that when they resurrected witchcraft, they brought it up in the name of Wicca, so that it would, we would be a little more allowed. We would have an allotment to show people of time, to show people what we could be about before they would go ahead and kill us, right? I believe that we were resurrected under the term of Wicca or Wiccan. That's what I believe in it. I believe that because they did, they resurrected in the new day and following behind Christianity's arrival on the scene. Then a lot of Christian ideas and ethics were resurrected into it, or at least because Christianity was there and the history of what had been done to us had been so prevalently there over us in the past, that it did have a bearing on how we would resurrect us and how we would act and the things we would do and how we would practice. And so with the new name of Wicca to replace witchcraft in the oldest days, Wicca came about, and so did a new way of practicing. All right? And Wicca came forward with these new ideas and more spiritual and more religious because it had that bit of religious practice in it, ceremonial practice involved in it. And so a lot of that was brought into it, but didn't make it. You know what I'm saying? It did not make it. So a new way, a new pathway was brought about that was offset from witchcraft in the oldest days. Now, when a lot of people looked around and realized what it was, then they said, I believe in obstructing still the new ideas of leaving a higher power away from it, not practicing, but maybe bringing in low magic's aid. And the old witches started coming out more when Wicca was brought out to the surface. Hey Cindy Lou, how's it going? And when Wicca was brought to the surface, then witchcraft started coming back out, and the people that belonged in it, that had all of that knowledge and wisdom passed down to them, the true knowledge of what being a witch was, surfaced up, to where it was acknowledged again and right along beside Wicca. And that's what I feel. So Wicca was formed from witchcraft with little tinges of Christianity involved in it, or at least the spiritual aspects of it within it. Okay, but witchcraft, being its own creature and from the oldest days, started making its way back up and to come about to where it would not be bringing them to being burned again or whatever. So, witchcraft, true witchcraft in the oldest way, does still exist, and it resurfaced when Wicca did and brought in ideas of it, and we were accepted. I'm doing good, Cindy Lou. I'm glad that you're doing all right. I know it's been a pretty rough month for you. Seriously. But, so we do still have the two separated paths. But we have to understand that to some degree, one has affected the other. Each one affected the other. As well as Christianity affected Wicca, as Wicca was brought in after Christianity, but in behind witchcraft. And so it's all tied in to some degree, form or fashion. It doesn't really matter. If we make our own pathways and we are who we are, we can find a synonymity with that which we create for ourselves. And we can always undertake that which other people offers as far as suggestions and understandings, new knowledge and wisdom. As an old witch, I have this obscene fear of just living by my own stagnant wisdom from the past. I said hello. I said hello. Or are you saying hello to everybody else? I said hello. Anyway, I believe that as long as we are true to who we are and we find happiness with that which we do, it doesn't really matter the tags and titles, though people do try hard to do that. And they force teachers like myself to do that. They force teachers like myself to try to specify tag and title, and I don't like really doing that, because tags and titles are just that. And it's important whenever we're trying to tell somebody what something is that we want, or this, that, and the other. But as far as who we are, tag and titling ourselves, really I just go by eclectic spiritualist. Other people tell me that's a beautiful way of framing myself spiritually speaking. Eclectic spiritualist. I look at it as just saying I'm just an eclectic spiritualist. I'm a person that walks the many different pathways because there are many different pathways valid of respect, and who I have studied for so much time. They believe they belong in equal billing with each other as far as what I know within my own being. So What do you feel about yourself? I mean, how do you feel as far as your views on what your pathway is? Are you in the right pathway? Do you abide by the Wiccan rede, the Witch's Creed, the 13 principles, or the 13 principalities of Wicca, etc.? I totally agree about discarding tags and titles. I really do. But you can't. I mean, people force you into it even if you don't want to wear them. Let's be real dark. It's not really us, ourselves, that like to tag and title ourselves, but it's other people that simply say, what path are you going down? Or where are you at within your pathway? Or what is it that you do? And then there's a simple way of saying it that would clarify all of it. If you say, oh, okay, I'm Wicca, then it'll open all those doors. You don't have to say all of this and that, because that one title just told you everything, you know. The thing is deities, they all come by many different names and forms, but in my mind, it's all one being. It's all one thing. It's the energy that is around us, above us, within the trees, within the people, within the grass. It's life force. It's all of that, you know. But tags and titles, I mean, do we need them? We have to have them, because even if we don't try to use them, but we're talking to other people, they're going to want to know who we are, and we want to clarify it in the best possible way. Do I like them? No, I don't. And that's why whenever somebody asks me, what are you? What's your pathway? Eclectic spiritualist. Some people say eclectic pagan, you know. Others will go a little step further, a little deeper, and say eclectic witch, which means, okay, and you know, there are very devout separation lines between all of this. An eclectic pagan is a pagan who practices eclectically only within pagan pathways. Okay, an eclectic spiritualist is someone who practices on pagan pathways or Christian pathways eclectically or non-denominationally. Eclectic witch is someone that isn't either dark witch or white witch or gray witch or whatever, but is whatever witch they want to be at the time they want to be it. You know, and so, yes, there are very defined lines between all of this, and those evolved. Those came about through time, but after certain other things happened to make it come about. So can we rely solely on the oldest days and sayings? No. The 13 principles alone? No. You know, because a lot of things have changed. I didn't get that, Brian. I really didn't understand what you were trying to say. That's not what I meant, like you described earlier. Let's see. Just like deities. That was such a small frame of an answer that I don't know what you were trying to say there. And I've got all this script scrolling up and trying to stay on topic. People have to understand where I'm coming from on here. You know, that I can only do what I can do as far as getting to everybody and reading these and trying to stay on topic. I'm a solitary, earthy, eclectic witch, LOL. You know, and that's how you define yourself. And we do try to define ourselves, but we can only do so much to do that without stepping out of our comfortability, you know, area. You know, but you guys have to understand that I can't keep up with everybody all the time. And I try to stay on with what you're trying to say, and I try to read between the lines and all of that, and there's so much going on from my side, being the person with the original topic and trying to stay on with that. But it's very hard. Let's see, I was talking about the earlier with the deities and creed for the 13 principles, the deity and creed. Either way, you know, I'm kind of brain dead at this point about all of that. But you've got to be who you are, and not all of us actually pray to a deity or a pantheon. You know, we are very loose and generic. Some people, I mean, I've got people on here that are Christian actually. You know, I've got people that pray to high magic's aid only, which is calling to a deity or the higher power. I have those that are on a pathway of only low magic's aid. And that would be along the lines of wizards or you know, people of that sort, or witches that just feel that they could draw the power into themselves and use it. You know, everybody is different, and so I try to talk to everybody loosely and generically on here. Even about the 13 Principalities of Wicca, you know, whenever I try to talk about that, you've got to realize that, you know, the people that all came together from the many different pathways, they weren't all Wiccan. Actually, when you read all about it, all through the internet, they were pagan. They were pagan from all the different pathways within America. Wow, that's something to think about. Which part of it is? With the little hoodoo stuff in there. Anyway, you know, healthy thoughts. Is there something wrong? I don't understand. Let's see. Healthy thoughts. Am I getting on somebody's nerves? I'm not trying to. I just tried to keep up with everybody in the room, and it's hard for me to do so. And when I lose my train of thought, and I'm trying to still read and get what everybody's saying, then I totally lose my place. And when you're in my position, you know, in front of a bunch of people, it's not hard to do. Let's see. Wow, that's something to think about. It's nothing, and therefore I am, and I am nothing, like she said. Everybody is something to me. Everybody is important. You know. Anyway, does anybody have anything else that they would like to say in regard? And I mean, we've got to ask ourselves, which principle are we referring to in the realm of deities? And I've got to go back through a bunch of papers, and I don't understand, or I don't know where to find that particular principle at that we're referring to. But I mean, if you can read from your side to me what it is that you're wanting to know, then I would have a better grasp of that. Everyone, have a great night. It was good to see you, Seraphina. I'm sorry I didn't notice that you were saying that you had to go. I hope you're still here. Love and light to you. Let's see. But anyway, everybody, nobody's really talking at this point, and I'm really lost on my topic. I think we pretty much covered everything, to tell you the truth. So I'm going to go ahead and kill the live stream for now. Let's see, I could have left. So what are you saying you could have left? I mean, I don't understand. I try to talk to everybody that I could have left. I don't know what's going on here, but I try to be positive. I undertake these shows in an extremely positive way. And I mean, I'm not trying to undermine anybody, but I'm reading a whole shitload of script here on my page. And I'm doing the best I can for everybody here. And I don't know where you're at on what you're trying to read. All right, let's see. Let's see how. All right. I'm here. I'm here, everybody. Are you still there? I like being at one with everybody. No, it's not time out. I ban them. I'm sorry. This is a positive spiritual place. This is my positive spiritual surrounding. And as long as it's positive and spiritual, I like being in it. But if at any point in time it becomes anything other than spiritual, I do something about it. And this person wasn't saying anything, saying enough to try to distort everything that we were talking about here. And they did, and I can't have that going on at every meeting. And it's starting to be done that way. You know? It's starting to get to where at every meeting some asshole is wanting to bring us out of a spiritual place. And as you guys all know, I was sitting here and I was being pleasant. And now I'm in a very bad spot. in place, and I'm sorry about that. But in this case, I am always going to do that. I don't put them at timeout. They are just leaving. Let's see. I had to do it. Yeah. I mean, what the hell? I was sitting here being positive. Don't screw with me. It just... What was deleted here? Who deleted what? Cindy Lou, did you do something? Why was Cindy Lou banned? Did you ban Cindy Lou, and why? I don't know how to get her back. Are you still there, Cindy Lou? Okay, what happened? I mean, let's not what's going on? This show just went wonky. I mean, in all reality, I was happy-go-lucky. Is there a problem with everybody? Anyway, yeah. Anyway, let's try to get back on a lighter note. I mean, the show was really good, and I don't know what's up with people. I come in here and I'm the good guru. You got to be very careful, because right there, that is putting up a negative barrier for people. Anyway, it's okay. Anyway, I'm going to get off of here for now. The temperature, I need to rest. I do. Whenever, I mean, I love all of you guys to death. You know, and whenever we're at a peaceful place and we're together on these things, I feel very good about it. You know, but it doesn't take a lot to change the temperature of a room. And this person, whoever it was, certainly did do that, and it's becoming more often. And I mean, I do take a lot before I'm actually... And no, you're not banned, Cindy Lou. Anyway, basically, this other person just totally distorted the area of the room. And I hate it when this shit happens. I mean, because I'm coming into the room a good guru, and I'm reading about the 13 Principles of Wicca. And this idiot just stands there saying, I am not, therefore I am not, or some bullshit like that. And I'm like, okay, you know, it's like, whatever. But, you know, it becomes very dark when somebody throws around all kinds of negative crap. And the last time it was somebody accusing us of being cliquish or something like that, and in the same show. I mean, and unfortunately, there's so many thousands of people out there that they could come in this room while we're in our positive place. And so it's like, you have to wonder if someone is always going to be knocking us into the mid of next week with this crap. He was talking crazy. I know he was, Elmira. What was that? She says I'm not, and therefore I am. What the hell? And it's like, okay. Anyway, Patricia, good night. Let's see. Munchie's like to come run stuff. And it is. It's the way it is. But you just get past it and you try to move on. I've got to get to where I'm not letting it change the temperature of the room. You know, I'm just still new at this, you guys. And we're all new at coming together and just trying to have a good time, you know. I'm back to peaceful too. It's just, you know, I know that it was a little uncomfortable for a lot of people, and it usually is for everyone when somebody is doing that. But you never know whenever it's somebody that's set out to come into the room just to do that, you know? Anyway, you guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and call it a night so we can get rest. We've been together for about an hour and 40 minutes anyway. And so I'm really tired. And I am going to just relax a little bit. So good night to all of you guys. You take care of yourself. Brightest blessings. Thank you, Dark. It was good being at one with you. And welcome back to come anytime you want. And we'll be together on Sunday. Sunday morning at 10 is when we meet again. For those of you that are not from the other side of the world and would be asleep in the middle of the night at that point. I love all of you guys. And be sure and friend me on Facebook if you wish. It's under Eclectic Spiritualist on Facebook. And support us on Patreon if you can. Look under any of the videos and you'll find the information there on how you can be of a support to the show. Blessings all and merry part.